one of the biggest kind of myths that we like to crush is that the shame doesn't have to control you, right? And the money doesn't have to control you. Actually, you can control your money at whatever stage you're in, whether if you're looking at mounds of debt or you don't have any debt. Either way, you get a choice.
Welcome to Fitter Every Day, the show where we break fitness into bite-sized bits to help make you fitter every day. We're here with Sarah and Dawn, who are the founders of BTI, or Breakthrough Innovations, which is a really particular set of skills that makes them a nightmare for some people and a dream for others. That's a little Liam Neeson terrible joke. Anyway, what BTI kind of specializes in is financial literacy specifically for women. And now that we're around Mother's Day, is one of the things we wanted to get them on to be able to communicate with people real conversations that happen. And normally we talk about fitness on this channel, which kind of naturally, it's called Fitter Every Day. But the thing that we wanted to do is be able to take some foundational information that is not kitschy, it's not joke stuff, it's not fad things. It's actual real information that's beneficial to people. So on Fitter Every Day, welcome to Sarah and Dawn. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's really good coordination there. So as far as introductions on like how we know each other, because it's not like a random person. Like Sarah, you and I we've known each other for a very long time.
Yep.
So you have been a member at one of the gyms, whether that's North Ankeny CrossFit or Huxley Fit Club, for how many years now?
A lot of years, and I'm consistently inconsistent. Pop in 3 months, out for another 3, just kind of depends, but I always find my way back to you guys.
Well, you're actually the way that, like, kind of the connection point that we actually got Huxley going.
Yep.
Because you, the Chris and Chris, the gardeners with Bella Holmes that actually built your house, they came down and dropped into our gym for a while, or once or twice, and said, "Oh, we like the way you set this up." He asked me and Sean to be able to help design his space. We then kind of helped design that space. And at some point in the process, I don't remember if it was me or Chris, said, "Hey, would you guys want to run a gym out of here?" And we're like, "Sure." Mm-hmm. So we ended up running a gym. So you were the bridge to get us from Ankeny to Huxley. So
it's actually a really perfect partnership. And actually, Dawn's been helpful with this too. One of Dawn's good friends, Megan, owns Blue Moon Holistic, which is one of the yoga one of the yoga companies that also provides services out of the Huxley gym. So it's just kind of funny. We've all come full circle, and now we're all married.
I mean, not all of us. That would be weird if all of us were married.
That'd be a
like
little
to each other.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to happen. So anyway, hi Dawn. And so I got to know you a little bit through Sarah and through BTI, because you guys, I mean, just kind of bouncing ideas back and forth. And you guys looking just how can you provide the best help? And it feels like you guys have sort of landed on that. So to the random person who's listening or watching this who doesn't really know what that is, we'll start with Dawn and say, what would you describe BTI is and kind of the goal of it?
We created Breakthrough Innovations really to create money sexy and create talking about wealth sexy. It's really taboo when you look at how we perceive money. Many people would rather talk about their sex partners, politics, anything, but don't really open up my pocketbook because I don't want to share. So Sarah and I really started as a way to really, hopefully, just crush all those myths around wealth and being okay with saying, heck yeah, I want to grow my wealth. How do I do that? Mm-hmm.
What we found is that specifically with women, a lot of women, like Dawn said, it's taboo to talk about money, but more specifically, there's so many women out there who are like, I want to make more money. I want to grow my wealth. I want to build a freaking empire. But it hasn't been okay to talk about until now. They haven't sought out these conversations. They haven't talked with other people about their wealth building strategies. What's interesting is that you don't typically find this with men. Men talk about, their portfolios. They talk about their investment options. They talk about the ways that they're building their businesses. But women are just naturally really good communicators. And for whatever reason, call it society, call it socialization, but whatever it is, we don't talk about money like we should. And that really just does a disservice to a lot of women out there who have some incredible ideas for growing and building wealth.
So one of the things that I would kind of jump in, because I can hear like the collective bristling of necks when you use the term wealth and you term money and you term budgets and stuff like that. You guys, as far as what someone would be expecting to purchase from this, if they said, all right, you guys must be financial advisors, right? Like you're naturally, that's one of the conversations that happens is that you must be someone who is going to profit from my investment. Therefore, you will be a person that's going to be pushing an investment. So that is not the case?
No, that actually Breakthrough Innovations is entirely unique in this entire fashion. We do not sell financial products at all. That's actually a pillar that we live, breathe, and die on. But what we do is we teach people how to be financially organized. We show people how to develop sustainable budgets. We coach people on spending. We coach people on business development or investment acquisitions, but we will never tell someone where to specifically invest their money.
We'll show them the numbers. We can kind of give you an idea of, if you were to place, here's some projections, but we're never going to say this is where you need to put your money, right?
Because at the end of the day, everyone's goals and priorities financially are very different. And so you want to be able to provide these people with options. But what we find is that people get so incredibly confused about all of these different investment tools. And they find themselves in these catch-22s where they're like, considering, let's say, a debt reduction strategy. And they're like, should I use my HELOC to reduce my debt? Or should I be using a avalanche method or a snowball method? Or should I take out, should I talk with a credit union to open another line and consolidate? What we'll do is we'll help run specific numbers to show them the way in which each of those debt reduction options plays out, so that they can make a decision for themselves which avenue might be most appropriate, and then they would subsequently engage the help of a financial advisor or financial planner that could help them accomplish those.
So when you're mentioning kind of the strategies and stuff, what would you say kind of I don't want to do like a 5 myths, but like what are the things that you generally, because people don't talk about money. They don't like to talk about money, and specifically I'm a white dude here, so hi from the majority. With specifically speaking of women's conversations and perceptions around money, what are the things that the baggage that a lot of women kind of, if you had to lump a lot of the clients that you work with together, what are the baggage that they bring to the party? And I think we were talking right before we got started. A lot of it is just not having conversations, and then all of a sudden being like, yeah, I got a lot of debt that I don't even want to bring up the conversation of. Like, what are so to rephrase that, what's the baggage that people bring in that you have conversations with most of your clients?
I was just looking up a stat, and I think this is so interesting, and is 68% of women would rather talk about their weight and say their weight than they would rather talk about what's in their pocketbook. And so I think that just shows the biggest thing is all the guilt and the shame that money can bring to the table. And those are some of the first conversations we have. And so I think one of the biggest kind of myths that we like to crush is that the shame doesn't have to control you, right? And the money doesn't have to control you. Actually, you can control your money at whatever stage you're in, whether if you're looking at mounds of debt or you don't have any debt. Either way, you get a choice.
It is interesting. A lot of times when we have these initial conversations, people come to us and they just don't think that they're doing well. They just don't. They don't think that they're doing well. They don't feel proficient in their savings or their spending or their investing. They just always feel like they're behind. We have yet to find a single client that is crashing and burning. But it's like finances are this black box, right? And when we don't know what's in the black box, we get scared and we're intimidated of it. And it's easier just to sit there and be worried about what's ever in that black box. But once you start actually opening it and making sense of your finances and getting them organized, what we find is people are actually in a better position than what they thought that they were, and that they actually have more options than what they were considering. But without those conversations, we tend to think about only the options that we can conceptualize. Mm-hmm. And then when you start having conversations with other people, you realize that you actually have other options that you could deploy to meet your financial goals.
And you know what a really good picture is that we say to a lot of our clients is it's just like freaking cleaning out that closet, right? It's embarrassing. So instead of cleaning it out, I just shut it. And sometimes you just need a friend to come along and get me some cute freaking bins and labels and put the crap in it. And you know what? My closet stays clean.
Only you would refer to bins as being cute. Those cute storage bins.
It's true, right? Like same thing with our finances. Sometimes we just need to clean out that clutter, get us organized, and then
we stop worrying about the closet that needs to be cleaned because the closet is cleaned and you've developed a method to clean it, to keep it clean.
So you guys I would say that feels less like you are going to be a person who's prescribing something to do, and more like a person who is a resource, like a trusted resource, is just going to like direct someone in the right way. So if I come in and I've got 25 grand in credit card debt, but I make $130,000 a year, those two things are not weird to have been combined. Like that person's not unique and or alone. So kind of walk through the process of someone's thinking about doing this thing, like or really just thinking like, I don't like where I'm at, where I don't feel comfortable in where they're at. And they walk in, they have, like you mentioned, 20 grand in credit card debt.
Well, I think the first thing that we do is we don't really even talk about the debt. The first thing that we go at is Sarah likes to say, let's start backwards. Let's start talking about like your goals and what you want to do. And then how do we get there? You know, because too often that's what we focus in on is this debt. And like Sarah already described it, sometimes it feels like a black hole. And that's what we want to get, especially women, out of. Like, don't feel like you're alone and don't feel like this is a black hole, that this is unattainable, because we guarantee you it can be attainable. So we start with your goals. So where do you see yourself in a month, a year, 5 years from now? And then we develop a plan on how can we get you there.
Dawn's exactly right. So what we'll do is we'll start clients off on a 15, 30-minute free consult where we just sit down and we talk with people. And Dawn's exactly right. We start with, what are your financial goals? Tell me what they are, right? If you see yourself and you're owning an island in Bora Bora, sipping a mojito every single day, I want to know that. And then we work backwards, right? So you would need X amount in the bank. That means that you would need to be saving or investing this amount of money when you're in your 30s. And you know what? Yeah, that $20,000 in debt, that probably is holding you back a little. That's one component. That's just one component of your big goal. Mm-hmm. That $20,000 in debt. That does not define you. That's actually not the biggest problem in the world. The biggest problem in the world is developing an organizational system to make sure that when you're in your 60s, you're living the life of your dreams.
So organizational system, that sounds stupid. That sounds boring.
Yeah, it's not very sexy, right?
And I think one of the reasons why I liked and kind of wanted to get you guys on here is because there are a lot of times out there, especially someone where you see a lot of stuff, whether it's social media or whether you read some article and someone says it's this easy and you can start this thing and make this much money and it's all you have to do is post on social media every day and you're going to make $10,000 a month, like some just complete horse shit like that. And I think a lot of times that falls in the financial sector and in the goals sector of like things that you want to do is you want to have employment freedom and you want to be able to control your schedule and you want to make money and you want to be able to stay at home with your kids. You want to be able to do all those things in the same way that here's how to lose 10 pounds is just eat celery and drink green juice. And it doesn't fit. Like the only way to actually get to a place physically, health-wise, where you want is consistency over time.
Oh my gosh, that's
End of list.
Exactly what we preach. And we say it's just like diet and exercise. It's just the same thing, right? Like I can teach you a keto way. I can teach you all these different ways that might drop you a few pounds or a lot of pounds. But what we want to create is something that you're going to be consistent with, right? Because we know that is the key to maintain your wealth in any type of decision you make in your life, right? Like, and it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, you don't put on 100 pounds overnight. In a week or
right.
overnight. Yeah. And so you shouldn't expect to lose 100 pounds overnight. If you do, you have done it in probably a pretty unhealthy and unsustainable way. If we have a client that comes to us that immediately, wants to get out of debt and do it as quickly as possible, we'll help you. But it's important to realize that this is a long game. This is a long process.
And with that, we don't want to miss the foundation that debt was probably founded on. We don't want to miss, what were your eating habits before this?
Yep.
Because we want to create a life that you can sustain. And if we don't get to the foundation, we're missing a piece. So yeah, we can probably crush your $20,000 in debt really quickly, but are you going to sustain it?
If we don't address the behavioral factors, you will continue to get in that, you'll get in that $20,000 of debt again. You have to have both the tools and the resources alongside the behavioral coaching and the mentoring in order for this to be sustainable.
So now that that kind of makes sense. So a couple things that I wanted to get you guys' description on, because there is such little conversation about actual having money and the term wealth, which feels like we should start there. So how do you guys define the term wealth?
We don't. I think that wealth is determined on an individual basis. What I consider my number to be wealthy might be different than what Dawn considers to be wealthy. People have varying different financial goals, whether it's a nice house or they want a vacation or they just want to be able to sit at home and drink their coffee at 48 years old. The idea of wealth and placing a specific number is so individually specific.
And I also think, even my 11-year-old daughter will be like, Mom, they're so rich. Look at their house and look at the car. And then we have to go into it a little deeper is, well, what does wealth look like for you, Selah? Right? Like, is it the nice car? And that's okay. And is it the nice vehicle? That's okay too, right? Like, because my wealth is going to look different, or is it investing in your retirement and knowing what number you're going to retire comfortably? So I don't have it defined. What does that wealth look like? I think it is exactly what Sarah said, is how you define your wealth.
What the biggest thing is, too, is having the ability to draw the line in the sand about the things that you're willing to spend your money on and the things that you're not. Identify what your goals are, and your money only goes to that. Stop spending money on all of the noise. It is so easy for our money to slip through our hands on shit that we don't even need, things that we don't even want. But we forget about it. And so when we start defining these big goals and people are like, yeah, I really want to retire at 48. We're like, all right, well, you're spending $450 in lattes every year. And if you were to, take that $450 and invest it, that's going to give you X amount in your, 50s.
Yeah, we really start to really define, where the money's going, right? Like every month, that could be buying years off your retirement. Yeah, so let's talk about that.
What are you trading today in your 30s for a life in your 60s?
How would you guys define wealth? Like, not wealthy. Like, what does wealth consist of?
I think that's totally based on the individual. And that's a question we ask usually at one of the first meetings is, A, what are your goals and what does wealth look like for you, right? And then from there, Sarah, that's how we track, right?
I think one of the very first things that you have to do is you have to know where you currently stand today. What is your baseline? And a lot of Americans, a lot of women, we don't have our net worth calculated. And so what we have is we have money in all of these buckets. And we don't necessarily know how each of those buckets are performing. We might get like a monthly statement and an investment grew by $2,000 or $3,000. But what you really need to do is you need to create a system to monitor your net worth over time so that you can see that while that account only grew by $3,000 over 6 months, you've actually improved your net worth by $60,000 in 6 months when you consider the amount that you've paid down on your house or your car and the amount that all of your retirement accounts and your investments are growing. But that having your net worth calculated as a baseline today and then updating that calculation every 6 months so you can see where you stand, it helps internally create a mechanism where we can begin to see progress. It's exactly why you guys have Wodify or, your other accounts to track exercise. I think that there's research that proves that if you physically write down your goals and your progress towards your goals, you become significantly more likely to meet them. And just by having this on paper where you know how much money you have and how it's growing, it helps you know that you're on the right track towards meeting a particular goal. And if you're not, then it allows you to adjust the rate of aggression that you want to take in order to continue to meet it.
And let's be honest, we're not going to always be on track 100% of the time. And that's okay. I think what we want to know is when we're falling off track, when do I get back on board?
Yeah, it's a pretty similar reason to why, I'm a pretty big proponent, so long as you have a healthy relationship with the number and there's not actually an underlying disassociation you have with that. I weigh myself every day. And that's not to say that I am putting any stock in that number, but if I'm 231 on Monday and 234 on Tuesday, what did I eat on Monday to make, because I didn't gain 3 pounds of food, like my body got irritated by something. Oh, I had, I had a little bit of unprocessed cheese. All right, well, that's probably something that I should cut back on. Dairy's not good. So that lets me identify then I should avoid this thing in the future because it's just a point. So like, I don't attach any value to the fact I'm 234 versus being 231. In the similar way, if let's say your investment account goes up or down or doesn't change, whether or not you attach significance to that number is more on your relationship with the number than it is on the number itself.
And we talk about that all the time. We talk about how we do have a relationship with money. And people are like, what? How do I have a relationship with money? And we do. And our history, our family history, what we've been taught about money, all plays a role in our relationship. And then how we spend it.
Yeah.
But similar to your example that you just used where you talk about weighing yourself every day, if we want people to start, one of the guidance that we also provide is you have to get more intimate with your money. You just do. If you spent 5 minutes every day with your money and that, you start your day, you get ready for work, 5 minutes before you go to work, you just spend 5 minutes, you just check your accounts, right? That's all you have to do is spend 5 minutes every single day with your money. You will have a more intimate relationship with it. You'll better understand it. You'll know when things start to drift. It will be on your mind then. It's just like the idea of starting your day off, eating something healthy. If you eat something healthy the rest of your day, you're more likely to exercise or eat something healthy for lunch and for dinner. But if you start your day and just you carve out time every single day to be more intimate with your money, you will naturally form a better relationship with finances than you have today.
So when, if someone comes in that same conversation, and they push back to that concept because they're scared about it, what would you, because I hear a potential, whether it's a listener or a viewer or someone like that going, that sounds awful. I have no desire in doing that. What is kind of the communication you'd have back and forth with that person if they just don't want to look at it that close?
Well, we're not gonna sell you something that isn't sexy because sometimes it is awful and it can be ugly. But what we can tell you is that we're here for you. And what does that look like? Tell us why you're struggling with it. What's going on? And sometimes we also kind of have to be real too in regards to, is this ugly today? And if you don't do it, then what's going to happen?
Right.
Like if we want to ignore it, you can only push this stuff in the closet so far before it really comes crumbling. And we're here for you.
Money can be really uncomfortable. It's just like the idea that if you're not comfortable with your weight and someone tells you, get on that scale every single day and look at your weight. Look at that number that makes you uncomfortable.
Hey, it was like that conversation we had with that client, and she was very uncomfortable. And she's like, and I told her, I'm like, hey, it's like going to the gynecologist. They've seen every type of vagina. We've seen every type of situation. You're not going to shock us here, So we also try to normalize it.
Yeah,
I think is huge, and letting them know that in fact you're not alone in this.
Yeah, it feels like that would be one of the greatest, if nothing else. If I think, especially because we have this Midwestern, we're good. I'm totally. How's your day? It's good. And then
real good.
Gloss over all of it and not have that conversation. I think there was one thing that in kind of my personal financial background, I grew up in a family that didn't really talk about it that much. And so then the concept of talking about it is weird. Of just having a conversation about money is generally weird. And when you do that, you have to be you either have to actively lie about it, knowing that you're actively lying about it, or uncomfortably sit on it because it's a number. Generally speaking, money is comprised of numbers. And so you can't say that there is 9,000 of those numbers when there's really negative 1,000 of those numbers. There's not a fake on that. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing that I really appreciate, just the general conversation of having someone come in who doesn't really isn't comfortable having the conversation about money and saying no, let's actually dig in and have the conversation about this. When you've gotten someone they have identified a goal, right? They understand they want to build this thing. They feel confident, whether business owner, W-2 employee, doesn't really matter. And they've gotten access to harnessing their own money. What are things that you guys have interacted with that people didn't know existed, that you feel like if people knew, hey, this vessel or this vehicle or this thing exists, that people would just be better off knowing like a different investment account or different way of saving or different way of budgeting? Is there one thing that you wish people knew about once to be able to productively use their money for any source?
Well, I don't know if it's using your money for any source, but it's actually your time and yourself, using yourself as you can be your best resource. And what we found when we started Breakthrough, working with women are incredible people and they're incredible entrepreneurs, but a lot of them are kind of fearful of the unknown and how do I do it? So what I'd say the biggest tip is that if you have a desire to start your own business or start your own side hustle, it's not that hard. Like go out, start leaning on, everybody wants to help you. And if they don't, then they don't need to be on your ship. But when we started Breakthrough, I think that was like my biggest like fear is, oh, this seems weird. How do we do it, Sarah? I just don't know. She's like, hold on, we just do it, right? So like that's what we tell people is just like go for it. And I think ourselves stop us from actually growing and being our biggest asset. What do you think, Sarah?
I don't think that there's like one North Star that, really unlocks the keys because it really does depend on everybody's individualized financial goals. But I would say that one of the most beneficial things that you can do if you are considering improving your finances or growing your wealth is to have conversations. Have as many conversations as you can with everyone. For the people that you look up to and respect and you mentor or that you are mentored by, whether it's formally or informally, sit down and have dinner with them and have conversations and have open and honest, transparent conversations about the way that they grew money.
And if you see somebody killing it in life and you see like they have the house you want or they have this vacation home, freaking ask them about it because I tell you what, they want to talk about it.
They do.
How'd you get there? What did you invest your money in? What does that look like?
What's interesting, what kind of surprised me with Breakthrough is how open and honest and willing people were to coach other people about how to make money. And how willing, like all these super successful people had to be, they just had to be asked. And they're willing to divulge exactly the way that they made money. It's incredible. But one of my biggest pieces of advice would be have conversations with other people that you know and respect that are operating in your same world that you look up to and that are just killing it.
With you talking about just having that conversation with people, you two are both mothers. How has starting this and had conversations with more women, how has that affected your relationship and perception of talking about money with your kids? So we'll go Dawn first on that one. How has this experience and a Breakthrough just generally affected your those conversations you have with the next generation?
Yeah, I love that question. So I think as I was growing up, I always felt like money was a starvation tool, right? Like I better save because I don't know what's going to happen. And as I started Breakthrough and just being around Sarah, because she doesn't operate that in that fashion, and thank goodness, it's really opened my eyes that money doesn't have to be about save, because we do really want to teach our generation, instead of saying, I can't afford that, Mom, I want my daughter to look at me and say, Mom, how can I afford that? And let's talk about that.
I've been really surprised. For those of you that don't know, Dawn and I started Breakthrough, and we actually have encouraged our daughters to start their own companies. Selah's 11. Peyton just turned 11 as well. Selah owns a candle business. Peyton owns a candy bouquet business. And it's been really fun to watch them grow. I had a conversation with Peyton the other day where she was talking about, I don't know, some trip. It was, I was like, if you spend that $1,000 that you just made, that $1,000 is gone. Or you can save it, and over time, that $1,000 turns into however, 12, 20, whatever grand. But I was having this conversation with her, and I was throwing a lot of numbers at this little 11-year-old human. And, I kind of walked away from the conversation knowing that, 4% of it was retained. But anyways, she circled back with me later that night. And she was like, Mom, I was giving a lot of thought to what we were talking about earlier. And she brought back up this $1,000 that she could either spend or invest. I'll be damned if she didn't repeat every single number that we had just talked about. They're listening. I don't know that I always realize it just in the day-to-day exchange, but our kids are listening to the way in which we spend money and the way in which we talk about money. And if we can create and cultivate that environment when they're young, where they have this healthy relationship to talk with their parents about money and to talk about options and different strategies. And when they struggle, that's okay to talk about too. But just creating that environment where our kids can lean on each other and they can lean on us as parents for guidance, that's a big thing. And if you can teach your kids anything, talking to you, if you can teach your kids anything, teach them how to make money. Because everything else will follow. When good people have money, they do good things. They can pursue their dreams. They can pursue their passions. They can grow their empires. I think it's totally okay to want wealth and to voice it because, again, when good people have money, they do good things.
And it's not a bad thing, right? To have wealth, it's not a bad thing.
You create security.
Yep.
You insulate yourself from hardship, too. If we teach our kids about money early, we know that they'll have hardships when they get older. We know that they'll fall into debt. We'll know that they'll have accidents or things in their own family that presents issues. But when you plan financially for emergencies, guess what? You stop having emergencies because you have a plan. And when those things pop up, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm good. I planned for it. And you don't lose any frickin' sleep at night.
Yeah, I love that, just the concept of building a healthy relationship with. We've had 3 different guests in 3 different arenas use that phrase. One was Jordan Miller, who is our dietitian, talking about that with food, having a healthy relationship with food. That ice cream, have it sometimes.
Balance,
Don't put it in the freezer or say you can never have this thing, and then it becomes this forbidden fruit, and then it's not a healthy relationship with it. Then the next was Tucker Herzberg, who's our AI director and director of sports performance, talking about kids' relationship with exercise. Is that training and working out, if you're young and you have a healthy relationship with it, when you're 50, you're not going to look at the gym as something you have to do or something that sucks because you have a healthy relationship with exercise and training. And then you guys are the third one to say just having a healthy relationship with money. And I think the consistent theme here is that the things that you can just come to accept and work with become much easier to change. That when you have a healthy relationship with money, whether that is with debt, whether that's investment, whether that's saying, you know what, God damn it, I want to buy a bigger house.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Want to buy a bigger house and not judging yourself for that feeling. Like it comes back, there's another just shoehorning exercise into this. It reminds me of Matt Frazier, who is probably the best men's CrossFitter ever. He won like 5 straight championships, something like that. And he was saying, because he's transitioned now into coaching, and one of the things he talked about when he was talking about like what the fear, like what his emotional state is, when he was in the loading area, there's 8,000 people that are cheering on whatever. There's a tunnel that he's going through. There's smoke machines and whatever. And he was like, I'm absolutely terrified nervous. And you wouldn't think that the best guy to ever do it is going to be terrified nervous. And he goes, being nervous isn't bad. Right. It's saying that being nervous is bad, which is bad. It's so not true. The nerves. It's the fact that you're judging your being nervous as being negative. Then you start to classify that whole experience as negative. It's not necessarily bad to talk about money. It's bad when you think that talking about money is bad. So kind of to wrap the last bit of it up is what would you hope, because like I said, this is coming around Mother's Day, what would you hope that if someone, it's like with the parent's relationship to a child is, what do you hope that next generation gets out of the influence that a parent is going to give?
I think social indifference is really big. It's just seeing your parents be able to exercise social indifference.
Define that term.
So when you just don't need that new car, and you don't need that pool, and you don't need that $20,000 vacation to Bora Bora. And I'm not saying any of those are bad things. I'm saying define what you want and only put your money towards the things that you want. It's so easy to want...
to keep up with the Joneses.
To keep up. It's so easy to want that new purse or those new shoes or that new house or whatever. But if you really don't care about your purse or you really don't care about your shoes, you don't have to spend that. I think that's the biggest thing, is just teaching our kids that it is okay to, and we should encourage them, just stop spending with the noise. Figure out what you want and go after that and only that.
And everything to Sarah. And also be brave enough, right? Like, just freaking be brave enough. If that's what you want, then go for it. And be brave enough to say sometimes that what your friends have is not what you want. And that's okay too.
I think, speaking to Dawn's point, what we find is we do find that people know that certain things are really good investments. We know that we have some clients who know that they can be more strategic with their money, but they're so scared to do something different than what they've done before. And one of the best things that I ever did, after grad school, I swore off reading because I'm like, I have read so much freaking theory books over the course of the last 2 years. I don't want to ever touch a book in my life. I want to sit in front of a TV and become a zombie. Anyways, that clearly didn't happen. But probably about 4 years ago, I knew that real estate was a good investment, but I was scared to do it because I knew nothing about it. And I bought probably upwards of 10 or 15 books. And I spent 2 years getting educated. And then I started having conversations with other people who had invested in real estate. And at that point, when we felt ready, we took the plunge. But it wasn't until that point that I made the decision to take something that I knew was good, but that scared me. It fundamentally scared me to do something different. But I knew that if I got educated and felt prepared and had the right coaches and mentors in my corner, I could do it. But I think that that's where a lot of people get hung up is doing something different or doing something that's outside of their own comfort zone. So I think that's a really great thing that we could bring back to our kids is when you want to take these leaps, do them responsibly. But have enough courage to do it. Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
So who are you trying to work with and how do they get in touch with you?
I would say mostly our clientele is usually the middle-aged woman that is probably upper to middle class, maybe just struggling with the day-to-day finances, feeling a little financially organized, not sure where to go next.
A lot of times what we find with our clients is they have all the pieces. They have all of the pieces. They just need help putting the puzzle together. We also have a lot of clients who come to us that want to work with their spouses. We love meeting with couples. It's so much fun because we always talk about that when you and your spouse are financially aligned, when you guys have the same exact vision, the same exact goals, you can take your dreams and you can just freaking pour gasoline on them because you're going no way but up. Alternatively, if you and your spouse are not on the same page about money, you are on an uphill battle. We talk a lot, me and my husband, when we update our net worth annually. Again, I know this sounds like the sexiest topic ever. We really enjoy it, believe it or not. But every 6 months when we update our net worth, we have a date night. I cook a big meal. We have like crab or lobster or steak or whatever. But we have a date night where we sit down and we look at our numbers and we celebrate our successes. And we also talk about areas that we could improve. But we make a habit of it. With every degree of regularity, we are constantly talking about money because we are trying to build an empire for our family because we enjoy each other and we love our family and we want to spend as much time as we can with our kids.
And know that it takes time, right? And if you aren't involved in your financial decision or planning for you or your family, get involved.
Yep.
Like, be part of that conversation, be part of those goal starting, like, get involved. And if you don't know how, if you feel uncomfortable, and we say this all the time, if you feel uncomfortable asking your financial advisor questions, you need a new financial advisor. Like, you need to feel comfortable being in control of your money. So
we do hear, piggyback off of what Dawn said, we do hear a lot of women say, I don't want to ask the question to my financial advisor because I don't want to look like I'm asking a stupid question. And we're like, all right, well, talk to me about that. What are you losing if you don't ask these questions? They're like, well, I don't know if my retirement's growing. I don't understand how the investment works. I'm like, all right, would you rather look stupid or know that your money that you've worked hard for, that you've given to this person, is doing exactly what they said it would do? You have to ask these questions. You have, even if you feel dumb asking them, you're not dumb for asking them. You're not. And your financial advisor should absolutely feel they should value clarity in their response to you. If you have a financial advisor that smoke and mirrors, isn't answering your questions, you need to get rid of them because you need to be working with someone who values your clarity as a client.
And if you need a little pep talk, reach out to Sarah and I.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
we'll be your hype girls.
How do people get in touch with you?
They can check out our website at breakthroughinnovations.net, and we're also on social media, both Facebook and Instagram.
Shoot us a direct message, shoot us a text message, give us a call. We've got contact information on our website. But
We're here if you need us.
we're here if you need us. We'll be your hype girls.
All right. Thanks, ladies.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Fitter Every Day. For more information on our programs, locations, or any of the content that we have to offer, go to www.goldfinchathletics.com. And if you want us delivered directly to your mailbox, go to the newsletter tab while you're at the website. For any information or links mentioned in this episode, check the show notes. We'll check you next episode.